Hi everyone, welcome back to art. Today we're going to be making a robot that pops out of our paper so that it becomes 3D. So I'm going to be using a white piece of paper to glue my robot to, and I'm going to be using a few colored papers to cut shapes for my robot out of. If you don't have this colorful paper, you could also just use the white paper and color it, or you could even get creative and use a different material you might have, like maybe pages out of a magazine, or even recycled cardboard, like cereal box cardboard would work really well for this project too, especially because it's a little sturdier. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a piece for my robot's head. So I think I want my robot to have a purple head. So I'm going to cut out just a square or a rectangle for my robot's head. I'm just going to cut a straight line across. And actually, I think this will be a good size for my robot's head. Now, if I were to glue it onto my paper like this, it does not pop out, right? When I turn my paper, you can't really see it anymore. That is flat. So what I want to do is bring the ends closer together so that it pops out like this. Now, here's another problem I have. If I just put glue on this tiny little edge, that would be very difficult to get it to stay. So instead, what I'm going to do on this rectangle, I'm going to fold and crease a piece on one end, and I'm going to fold and crease a piece on the other end. This is going to be where I put my glue. So again, if I glue it like this, that's flat, but if I bring the ends closer together, now it pops out and is 3D, and this fold is where I'm going to put my glue. And now I'm using a glue bottle. You could also use a glue stick if you have a glue stick, or you could always use tape too and put some rolls of tape on there. So I've got glue on that fold, and then I'm putting glue on this fold. I don't want to put too much glue because then it will kind of slip and slide all over my paper. Now I'm bringing these two ends together, putting it near the top of my paper where I want the head to go, and see how that kind of popped up like that? I do need to kind of put my fingers inside and hold it down, and I usually count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And while I was counting, I was kind of pressing or rubbing on those spots so that they would stay. Now I have a robot's head that pops out of my paper. Now it's time to add the body. I think I'll have my robot have the same color body as head, so it'll have a purple head and a purple body. You could, of course, have your robot have different color heads or bodies. Now, just like the head, I'm not going to glue the body like this because that would be flat. I want to bring the ends closer together so that it pops out, and then I want to fold both of the ends so that I have a place to put my glue. So this time I'm going to fold the sides. It would work either way though. And then on this fold is where I'll put my glue. Alright, so I held it down for about 10 seconds again so that it would stay, and look, I have a popping out robot body. So now I get to decide some of the details for my robot. So all of our robots do not have to look the same. In fact, I hope they all look different, because you might think of something to put on your robot that I didn't think of, and I might think of something to put on my robot that you didn't think of, and that's okay. So I think the next thing I want to add are little pieces for shoulders. I don't think I'm going to be able to make the arms pop out like I did the body, because I'm going to have to use a much smaller piece for my arm, and that would be difficult to do. So I'm going to have to think of another way that I can make the arm pop out. But I do think I could make like a big shoulder piece pop out, and then maybe make my arm stick out of that. So I'm going to switch to red paper now, and I'm going to cut a long strip and then cut it in half, and I think this will be good for my shoulders. Since I want them to pop out, I am folding two sides, and I'm going to put the glue here, and then I'll bring them together so they pop out. And actually, I think I want my shoulders a little smaller, so I'm going to cut that in half, and then I can use that for both shoulders. All right, now I had an idea for my arms. I think I'll switch to orange for my arms. I'm going to cut a long strip for my arm, and then I'm going to do an accordion fold so that it kind of looks like a zigzag. So I'm going to fold it up, then under, up, then under, all the way down. Then when I open it, it is like a zigzag, and then I could just put a little bit of glue on one end or both ends. Let me trim this end so I can fit it inside of the shoulder. Now my robot has an arm that is popping out. I'll do the same thing for the other side too. All right, I'm liking my robot so far. This is what I have so far. The head, body, and arms I created with those tube shapes, and the shoulders and the arms are zigzag lines that also pop out. So when I turn my paper sideways, I can still see my robot because it's 3D and not flat. Now I could add more details like legs, or I think since I didn't leave a lot of space, I'm just going to add wheels under my robot, and then things like buttons on my robot and eyes, maybe an antenna or hair, but that's what I'm going to work on now, and I will show you when it's all done. Alright, I've added a few more things. It's still wet, so I have to be careful holding it up. I added some kind of zigzag lines for hair, or I guess they could be wires or something for my robot. I added squares for eyes, some squares for buttons, and a circle for a wheel. So instead of walking, my robot will roll around. Now, my robot's not done yet. What it's missing is some little details that I need to draw on. So the last step is going to be to draw smaller details onto your robot. I'm going to use a black Sharpie for this step. You could use any marker or even a pen or crayon. I do think marker is easier to use since your robot is popping out. You don't want to press too hard when you're drawing your details because it might make your robot pop back in and be flat. So markers will work easiest, but you could always try something else if you don't have a marker. Alright, I think I am finished with my robot. So here are the little details I added with the marker. I drew a square and a circle inside of the eyes. I forgot to add a mouth, so I drew the mouth on. I added a few more buttons. I drew some different designs in each of my buttons and kind of just some lines on the shoulders and some lines and a circle in the wheel to make it look more like a wheel. So here is my finished robot. I can't wait to see yours. So as a reminder, I want your robot to pop out of your paper. So when you show it to me, if you were to turn it, I could still see your robot. It's not flat. You are going to be cutting paper, or it could be cardboard or magazine paper, whatever you have to create your robot, and glue it or tape it to another surface or another piece of paper. Then, when you're done, I want you to add some smaller details with a marker or pen or crayon, whatever you have, but they should be drawn on. Alright, can't wait to see your robots that pop out of your paper.